There are mistakes in the world of power that you'll never find in law books. They're not written into constitutions, and they're certainly never mentioned in the polished speeches about justice or morality. They don't roar. They don't raise swords. All they need is your tolerance. The moment you let a wrong action slide, when you ignore a small crack in trust, that moment you're not keeping peace. You're signing your own downfall. This isn't a message for the comfortable. It's not a fairy tale for the hopeful. This is the unfiltered truth, the kind that topples empires, corrupts leaders, and turns kings into pawns. Because power doesn't just fall. It erodes, slowly, silently, by betrayal, by greed, by the smiling faces under the lights who dig your grave in the dark. And if you don't see it, if you don't confront it, you won't be defeated by enemies from afar. You'll be destroyed by the ones standing right beside you. Today, we uncover the 7 behaviors that must never be tolerated. The 7 silent poisons that rot your throne, shatter your reputation, and steal your future. If you're a leader, a builder, or a man determined to create something that cannot be broken, stay until the end. And if these words hit a nerve, if they awaken a truth you've tried to ignore, hit like, subscribe, and share this with the men who need to hear it. Because survival doesn't always come from strength. Sometimes it comes from seeing clearly what must never be allowed. Part 1. Betrayal in times of crisis. People often say loyalty takes time to reveal itself. But Machiavelli thought deeper. He didn't measure loyalty in months or years. He measured it in crisis, because when skies are clear, anyone can swear allegiance. When money flows and victory is near, even cowards can pretend to be noble. But when the ship starts to sink, when blood is spilled, when flames rise and the world tilts into chaos, that's when the truth walks in. That's when you discover who's with you, and who was only with your success. You've seen them, the ones who cheered your wins, raised glasses in your name, laughed loudest at your table, acted like they'd die for you. But the moment your crown slips, the moment you fall, they vanish. No call, no message, just silence. A silence that screams betrayal. Worse still, they return, not with guilt, but with excuses wrapped in soft tones. I didn't know what to do. I had my own issues. I wanted to help, but I wasn't sure. Don't believe them, because nothing speaks louder than silence when you needed a voice. And someone who can abandon you once will do it again. If you let them. If you forgive betrayal out of fear, guilt, or weakness, you send a message, not just to them, but to everyone around you. Betrayal has no price, and from that moment forward, loyalty becomes a calculation. Not admiration, not belief, but simple math. Is he still powerful enough to be worth standing by? Is it safe to be loyal again? You're no longer a leader. You're a role waiting for someone stronger to play it better. In times of collapse, you don't need a crowd. You need one, just one. One person who stays when the world breaks. That one is worth more than 100 fair-weather friends. Machiavelli knew betrayal isn't just personal. It's structural. It fractures the perception of your power. And when people see that you can be abandoned, they stop believing in your invincibility. That's when your throne starts to wobble. Not because an enemy attacked, but because loyalty was replaced with calculation. Remember this. No one stays loyal to a leader left in isolation, and the one who disappears in your darkest hour will be the first to draw a knife when you're bleeding. They'll wear your colors, they'll smile in your presence, but when you needed strength, they vanish. You might want to justify it. Tell yourself they had good reasons, but Machiavelli would stare you in the eye and say, absence is a statement. It doesn't need words. It's a decision. And it is never accidental. So when you fall and no one reaches out, don't chase explanation. Don't ask why. Just remember faces. And if you rise again, never let those faces return to the positions they once held. Because each time you forgive that kind of betrayal, you teach the world a new rule. You don't have to be loyal, just return at the right time. But that's not how you build an empire. That's how you rot it from the inside. Part 2. Cowardice in leadership. There is nothing more dangerous than a coward sitting on a throne. You might think the greatest threat to a kingdom is a ruthless enemy, or whispers of betrayal in the shadows. But Machiavelli warned us, the fastest way to destroy an empire is to give power to a man who fears his own authority. Cowardice doesn't always appear as trembling hands or nervous glances. No, it wears a mask. It disguises itself as morality. It wraps itself in careful deliberation. It hides behind endless discussions, behind phrases like, "we need more time," or "let's not rush." But behind that facade is fear. Fear of responsibility. Fear of risk. Fear of blame. It's hesitation when action is needed most. It's the paralysis that whispers, "What if I make the wrong choice?" A leader ruled by fear doesn't just lose his own credibility. He infects everyone beneath him with doubt. When the man at the top refuses to lead, when he looks to others to make every decision, when even the smallest call requires unanimous approval, those beneath him stop following. They start calculating. And when trust in leadership dies, you don't need an external threat. The kingdom will collapse from within. Picture this. You're on a battlefield. The enemy approaches. You look up at your commander, and he's frozen, unsure, silent. Every second he hesitates could cost lives. Would you still believe in him? Or would you start planning your own escape? That's how fear spreads. Not with noise, but like a silent sickness. It starts at the top, and it trickles down, cracking the very foundation of order. Machiavelli understood, every second of hesitation from a leader is a knife in the heart of the system. Armies don't fear their enemies. They fear a commander who doesn't know what to do. Leadership isn't about waiting for clarity. It's the art of acting in uncertainty. No one ever leads with complete certainty, but power belongs to the one who moves first, even when the ground is shaking beneath him. Because in that moment when all eyes turn to you, when silence thickens the air like smoke, the true leader steps forward and says, "Move," not because he feels no fear, but because he knows that his courage holds the line together. Beware of those who speak of peace, restraint, or high ideals. Not because those values are wrong, but because sometimes they're just elegant excuse. They're not avoiding evil. They're avoiding responsibility. They're not choosing wisdom. They're fleeing from the weight of action. A true leader doesn't bury himself in councils. He doesn't drown in meetings. He doesn't hide behind "let's wait and see." He knows power doesn't belong to the cautious. It belongs to the bold, to the one who acts when the moment demands it, to the one who leads when others freeze. In a world that never stops shifting, power stays alive through one thing: action. Not perfection, not certainty, not endless planning. If you want to keep your throne, if you want to keep their trust, learn this: act first, explain later, and above all, never let fear disguise itself as calm. Because people might respect a ruthless leader, but they will despise the one who lacked the courage to lead when it mattered most. Part 3. Flattery disguised as loyalty. When you lead, there's always a certain kind of person nearby. They nod at everything you say. They praise every word. They always agree. "You're right, that's brilliant. No one leads like you." And strangely, they are the sweetest danger in the halls of power. Machiavelli never feared the enemy in front of him. He feared the voice behind him. The one whispering praise, the one telling him how great he was. The one who never dared to disagree. Enemies keep you sharp, but flatterers dull your edge. They don't attack, they seduce. And that's what makes them deadly. Flattery is a slow poison. It doesn't strike like a sword. It erodes. It chips away at your judgment, weakens your clarity, and turns a leader into a prisoner of his own ego. Flatterers aren't loyal to you. They're loyal to proximity, to access, to power. They don't speak truth, they echo your thoughts back to you. They don't challenge your blind spots. They widen them until you're walking in darkness, surrounded by mirrors reflecting only yourself. You start to believe you're always right. You stop listening to dissent. You mistake silence for loyalty and applause for truth. But true loyalty is never comfortable. It challenges. It questions. It says you're wrong, not out of disrespect, but because it wants you to survive. It doesn't flatter your ego. It protects your vision. Flattery is manipulation dressed as affection. It doesn't stab you. It seduces you into self-destruction. It weakens your standards. It numbs your instincts. And worst of all, it convinces you that everything is fine, even as the fire grows behind your back. Because when a leader gets addicted to praise, he goes blind, blind to risk, blind to deception, blind to the silence of those too afraid to warn him. And when collapse finally comes, those sweet voices, they'll vanish. Or worse, they'll smile as they lead your downfall, because they were never loyal to you, only to your strength. And when that strength fades, they will switch sides with the same smile, the same compliments, and the same rehearsed loyalty offered to your replacement. Machiavelli warned, never confuse a flatterer with a loyal ally. A true ally may make you uncomfortable, but they will never let you destroy yourself. A flatterer will stand by you only long enough to watch you fall, and maybe be the one who gives the final push. So take a long, hard look around. Who always agrees? Who never says no? Who always knows exactly when to compliment you? That's not an ally. That's a parasite, feeding on your pride. If you want to hold on to power, you must be strong enough to hear the truth, and sharp enough to spot the lie that sounds too sweet to be real. Because sometimes, a compliment at the wrong time is far more dangerous than a dagger in the dark. Part 4. Publicly challenging power. Power doesn't just come from weapons, laws, or titles. It comes from belief. The belief that the person in charge is untouchable. That belief is fragile, but it holds empires together, and all it takes to break it is one laugh in public, one mocking joke, one man bold enough to challenge you, not behind closed doors, but under the spotlight. In that single moment, your power is cut. Not entirely, but enough. Enough for the crowd to notice. Enough for doubt to spread like smoke. Machiavelli understood this well. A public challenge doesn't need to dethrone you. It just needs to plant a seed. If he can question him, why can't I? A whisper, a glance, a rumor. That's all it takes for the audience to smell blood. No one raises a weapon. They raise questions. Not because they want to lead, but because now they believe you can be replaced. And once belief in your invincibility fades, the testing begins. They delay your commands. They defy small orders. They criticize, softly at first, then louder, each one pushing a little further, waiting to see what you'll tolerate. And if you do nothing, if you smile politely, if you laugh it off to keep your image intact, you've lost more than your authority. You've lost fear, and once fear disappears, power doesn't crumble, it quietly evaporates. Power doesn't demand cruelty, but it demands consequence. Because a public challenge isn't just an insult, it's a message. And every eye in the room hears it. Is he really in control? A single act of defiance left unanswered becomes a signal, a green light for every future rebel. And suddenly, you're not leading an empire. You're performing on a stage, every word weighed, every command questioned. And slowly, you become a background actor in your own power drama. Some will disguise their defiance in virtue. They'll say they only want to help. They're not against you. They're for the kingdom. But don't be deceived. Anyone who publicly elevates their morality over your authority is quietly declaring, I deserve the throne more than you. Don't get lost in their eloquent words. Don't mistake the crowd's silence for acceptance, because if you don't act, if you tolerate public defiance for the sake of appearances, you've just handed your challenger the most dangerous weapon: precedent. And once that precedent is set, it becomes a path for every opportunist who's been waiting for permission to step forward. You don't need to crush every disagreement. You don't need to silence private opinions, but public defiance must be addressed. Not out of ego, but out of survival. Because in power, they're not listening to your words. They're watching your reaction. And from that, they decide, are you still the leader? Or just a man clinging to a throne that's already slipping? If this message speaks to a truth you've felt but never voiced, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay with us. Because this is just the beginning. Part 5. Ingratitude after mercy. In the world of power, your greatest enemy isn't always the one who stood against you. Sometimes, it's the one you once saved, the one you lifted with your own hands, the one you believed in, the one you defended when no one else would. And when the storm comes, they're the first to drive the knife into your back. Machiavelli warned us, nothing erodes power faster than ingratitude. Because ingratitude isn't just the absence of thanks. It's a quiet rebellion, a silent declaration that what you gave no longer matters, that your mercy, your sacrifice, your protection is irrelevant now, forgotten, dissolved. And that is the coldest betrayal of all. No swords, no shouts, just distance, just silence, just absence. When you needed them most. The ungrateful don't feel guilt. They feel entitlement. They don't see loyalty as a bond. They see it as a transaction. And once the transaction is done, they owe you nothing. Worse still, if they sense your position faltering, they won't just walk away. They'll switch sides. They'll whisper, I used to be close to him. I know where to strike. And the most painful part, you gave them that access. You opened the door. You gave them a platform. You raised them. And now they're tall enough to tear down everything you built. Machiavelli never said to stop giving, but he did warn, never invest in barren ground. Never grant mercy to those who lack gratitude, lack integrity, lack principle. Because mercy isn't just kindness. It's a strategy. When given to the right person, it builds an ally. When given to the wrong one, it feeds a parasite that slowly corrodes trust from within. The ungrateful are loyal to no one. They are loyal only to gain. They'll take, they'll use, they'll flatter, but they will never protect, never preserve, never stand beside you when it matters. You'll see them when you're at the top, swarming like bees to honey, overflowing with praise, acting like you're the center of their world. But when you fall, when the lights fade, they vanish faster than the words thank you. And if you rise again, they'll come back. Same voice, same face. But this time, with a better disguise, a new angle, a new plan, to get even closer. Machiavelli warned, never let gratitude become hope. Let it become a test. And once the test is failed, never test again, because the ungrateful don't change. They just get better at hiding. So how do you spot them? Simple. Watch what happens when you stop giving. They go cold. They pull away. They stop caring. Because to them, your value was never who you are. It was what you could give. And when a leader tolerates ingratitude, when he keeps feeding traitors out of habit or hope, he doesn't just lose resources. He loses the very foundation of his power. Because the one you raised up knows your weaknesses, knows how you think, knows your softness, knows you forgive too easily, and they'll use that knowledge to finish you. So remember this: gratitude cannot be demanded, but ingratitude must be punished. Never give a second chance to the one who betrayed you, because the world is watching. And if you forgive betrayal, you teach everyone that treason isn't dangerous. failure is. If this message struck a truth, you've lived. If you've ever been burned by the hand you once lifted, subscribe, because this journey into power, people, and awakening is far from over. And I want you right here when we expose what still hides behind the throne. Part 6. Ambition without loyalty. Ambition in itself is not the enemy. Machiavelli once said, "Ambition is the engine of empires. It drives the mediocre to rise. It gives the weak the courage to break through limits. It fuels the man who refuses to accept the fate handed to him." But when ambition is not paired with loyalty, it becomes a hidden blade, a sharp, silent threat aimed straight at the heart of power. Because a man with ambition and no allegiance belongs to no one. He serves no one. He respects no one. He may speak well. He may perform with brilliance. He may stay neutral in every dispute, please every faction, smile at every table. But that neutrality, it's not wisdom, it's a mask. Beneath it lies a soul loyal only to itself. And that is not someone you can trust. This isn't a rebel. This isn't a loud enemy. This is an opportunist, patient, quiet, waiting. He doesn't strike when you're strong. He watches. He listens. He memorizes every hesitation, records every crack in your armor, and waits for the day your throne begins to tremble. And then, when doubt creeps into the hearts of your men, when others are unsure, he rises, not as a challenger, but as the solution. He never wanted to serve power. He wanted to replace it. So if you're in charge and you spot a man with exceptional talent, with a brilliant mind and a sharp will, but no visible loyalty, no long-term commitment to your mission or your future, be warned. You have only two choices: bind him to your destiny, or remove him before he becomes something you cannot control. Because if he grows strong outside your grasp, his very existence becomes a threat. These men are masters of camouflage. They never raise their voice. They never reveal their hands. They're so polished, so composed. You mistake them for loyal, when in truth they're just waiting. Waiting for you to slip. Waiting for the balance to tip. They'll help you when it helps them, but when you truly need them, they're nowhere to be found. You'll notice them subtly. They reject public praise, yet seek private recognition. They avoid binding decisions, yet are always nearby when power shifts hands. They hover like shadows, silent, patient, never gone. Machiavelli taught, never let ambitious men roam free for too long. Tie them down with interest, with fear, with a future bound to yours. And if you can't control them, don't let them rise. Do not be fooled by brilliance. Do not be blinded by temporary usefulness. Because no matter how skilled a man may be, ambition without loyalty is a ticking time bomb. Ask yourself, will this man stand beside me if I lose my power? If your answer is anything less than certainty, he's not your ally. He's a candidate for your throne. And when that day comes, he won't take it with noise. He'll take it calmly, quietly, as if he was always meant to sit where you once stood. If you've ever known someone like this, charming, neutral, always in the middle, but somehow, you could never quite tell where their loyalty lies, leave a comment. You're not alone. And if what you just heard made certain faces in your life come into sharper focus, subscribe, because we're not done. There are still secrets to uncover about power, betrayal, and how to stay awake among those who smile while waiting for you to fall asleep. Part 7. Using morality as a weapon. Some people never raise their voices. They don't carry swords. They don't rebel. They don't threaten. And yet, they bring down empires. Not with violence, not with armies, but with a quieter, deadlier weapon: morality. Machiavelli saw this long before it became common. He understood, when morality is used as a tool to attack power, it's no longer about truth. It becomes a mask, a disguise for ambition. These are the people who march under banners of justice, speak of kindness, preach compassion, call for transparency. But if you look closely, they don't care about what's right. They care about who's in charge. Because when someone challenges you on moral grounds, they're not just asking for change, they're asking for your throne. It's the oldest trick in politics. Win the crowd by asking seemingly innocent questions. Is he truly a good man? Don't we deserve better? They don't want answers. They want doubt. And the moment you start explaining, justifying, proving you're not the villain, you've already lost ground. Your authority is no longer firm. It's on trial. A ruler shouldn't be chosen for being nice. He should be chosen for being capable, strong, decisive, able to preserve order when the world turns chaotic. But moral manipulators know this. Society prefers likable over effective. So they exploit that weakness. They hold up an impossible ideal, then crucify you for not matching it. They'll say you're heartless, that you've lost touch, that you don't care about the people. But behind those tears and slogans, they're counting the days, counting the votes, waiting for their turn to step into your seat. And the most dangerous part, it's a trap you can't win. If you defend yourself, you're a tyrant. If you stay silent, you must be guilty. That's how morality becomes a weapon, a rope disguised as virtue, slowly tightening around your throne. Machiavelli warned, never allow morality to become the force that overthrows your rule. Because once you let emotional speeches dictate authority, tomorrow anyone who can perform righteousness can pretend to rule in your name. And when you allow one person to succeed with this tactic, you trigger a chain reaction. Others will follow. They'll learn the script. They'll realize you don't need truth. You just need a crowd and a stage. You don't have to be cruel to the ethical. But if someone pretends to be righteous only to destroy you, you cannot afford softness. Because here's the truth. Real morality is quiet. It whispers. It corrects in private. It speaks with intention, not spectacle. Fake morality craves attention. It demands an audience. It doesn't want justice. It wants applause. So when someone calls you out on stage, remember this. They're not there to guide you. They're there to replace you. And if you don't act, if you let it slide to appear tolerant, your throne will become a podium. And your leadership, just another act in someone else's performance. If you've ever been manipulated by someone who used morality as a weapon to shame you, to control you, to twist your power into guilt, leave a comment, because it's time to call this game by its real name. And if this opened your eyes, if you now see the saints hiding behind smiles and speeches, subscribe. There's still so much you haven't heard, and maybe no one else had the courage to tell you. The final message from Machiavelli. The conclusion of the 7 silent poisons. We've walked through the 7 silent poisons. The behaviors Machiavelli warned no ruler should ever tolerate, not because they're loud, but because they destroy from within. Betrayal in crisis, proving loyalty was only borrowed, never owned. Cowardice in leadership, turning once mighty commands into whispers of doubt. Flattery disguised as loyalty, lulling the throne into a dream of safety. Public defiance, shattering the illusion that power is unchallengeable. Ingratitude after mercy, twisting your kindness into weakness. Ambition without loyalty, disguising enemies as allies in waiting. And finally, morality used as a weapon, turning you from a ruler into a defendant in the court of public opinion. If you are leading, if you are building, if you hold a position others look up to, etch this into your mind. True power does not come from being liked. It comes from knowing exactly what must never be forgiven. Because the moment you tolerate betrayal, allow a sycophant to remain, let a public challenge slide, excuse ingratitude or ambition in disguise, you're not just forgiving a person, you're writing a new law, a silent rule for every observer. There are no consequences. Loyalty isn't required. Only good timing is. And when the moment comes, when you need your army, your allies, your circle, you may find yourself standing alone, because they all learned something from you. You tolerated it. That's not how empires are built. That's how they rot, from the inside out. Under the softness of a leader, too afraid to draw the line, Machiavelli never taught cruelty. He taught clarity. He taught that power left unguarded by sharp vision will be devoured by those smiling at your side. Not from enemies outside, but from what you refuse to confront within. So remember this. Collapse doesn't begin at the borders. It begins with tolerance. It begins when the ruler closes his eyes and still believes he's in control. Learn to see the difference between real loyalty and its shadow. Punish early so you don't have to punish often, and never ever let your throne become a seat for anyone bold enough to challenge you. In the name of virtue, if you're still here, I believe you're not the kind of man who gets played by smiles, tears, or applause. You want to see the truth. You want to hold your position, not by being nice, but by being unshakable. Hit that subscribe button, because we're not finished. We will keep pulling back the curtain. We will expose the masks. We will decode the psychology of power. And together, we will become the kind of men who cannot be overthrown in a world where kindness is mistaken for weakness, and strength is still the only language the world respects.